All right, guys. Welcome to the class. We are continuing from where we stopped the previous week, where we did SSH and did secure copy and all of that. So for today, we are continuing to learn how to do remote synchronization, which is the rsync that we have here. Then we would continue to have secure root logins. This is part of our SSH class, just to for us to learn how to secure a root login and then move further to learn about user and group permissions. So these are basically what we expect that everybody should be able to learn before the end of the class. Learn the best way to copy files incrementally using RSync, then secure root logins, more like SSH hardening. Whenever you hear the word hardening in IT or where anywhere, as long as it has to do with Linux or anything, just know that's more like securing it. Making it a bit more secured. Okay. Then creating user groups, understanding access controls, and setting fine-grained permissions. Then would then learn how to manage these same users and groups that we've created. Okay, so to get started, I would pop up my VMs for us to see. In case you don't know, I'm using Ubuntu virtual machine on VirtualBox. So I'll just start my machines now. I'll start both of them because we are doing RSync first. So I'll wait for this to finish powering up. Okay, click on show, click on show. Okay, let me quickly log into this. Okay, for the sake of understanding, don't forget that during our SSH class, we did what we called local server and remote server, right? So it's basically the same concept that's happening here. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting the both of them on the same screen so that I can work with them simultaneously without having to click, click, click all the time. Okay, so that's why you're seeing both of them on the same screen now. Just increasing the font size so you can be able to see it more clearly. Okay, so if you see here, you see that on my left side is the local server, and on my right side is the remote server. Okay, I want to believe we already know how to clone our virtual machine. We've learned about that. There's a video about that. You can check on the channel. You'll see how to clone your virtual machine. It's very, very easy. Okay, so before we get started, we need to first of all check our IP to see what our IP is. To do that, I'll use ifconfig. Okay, I can see my IP for my local server is 192.168.1.161. So let me check for my remote server. It has 192.168.1.134. So you can see they're on the same network. They're the same IP on the same IP range because they're on the same network. They have the same subnet mask. So I said we are going to talk more about IP in our networking class. So if you do not really understand how this come about, we will talk about it to give you a good understanding. Okay, but just observe IP as a way for device to be able to communicate with the internet. Okay, I believe that is clear enough. So now that we've seen our our system IP, we are then going to continue with the rest of the class or of the lab because this is more of a lab session. Okay, we can see a very simple image of what an RSYNC represents. So, in our previous classes, we learned how to create folders and how to create directories and files and directories. Then we learned how to copy these files and directories to a remote server using SCP. All right. So we use SCP to do our remote copy, secure copy to a remote server. All right. So what rsync really means is that it's more like synchronization. We know what synchronization means. All right. To have like an incremental copy of a file to another um, directory. For example, if I have a log file here, a log file stored in this directory. Okay, it could be maybe a log.txt, a log file, maybe file.log. It could be any kind of log file. It could be any kind of PDF file. It could be any kind of a doc file. Any kind of file. We know what file is. Okay. Now, if I have every day, I'm always updating the file in a way that I will need the changes in another file. Okay, now this is the practical example. I have a file called file one. Okay, now file one, I need file one to I need file one to immediately, let me say file one.txt, right? .txt, yeah, which is stored in this directory here, in this blue directory. So I want it that whenever there's a change in this txt file, it should add it to the backup here, which is the red directory. Okay. Now, all of the time, there's a need to always have a data backup. Okay, of your files, of your pictures, of everything of most of the data that we have. Most of us in our phone, our pictures have Google Drive backup storage, have OneDrive backup storage for our pictures. Okay, so it is basically what we are doing here. So instead of just directly copying the file to the remote server, now imagine if you've already copied this file.txt into the remote server, okay, and tomorrow another change happens. Maybe um, it, you make a change to file1.txt. You cannot start moving the file over and over and over every single day. Okay, so what you can do is to create an rsync of the file in a way that whenever there's a change on this file, that change will be sent into the remote server file, like a backup file that is located in the remote server. Okay, so in that way, whatsoever it's in your local server is placed in your remote server. So they will have the same copy of files. Okay, okay, so this is another image. Yeah, you can see the reason why I'm showing this image is the repetitive circle that or direction that is here. So it's telling you that whatever changes, let's say this is our local server and this is our remote client. So whatever change is made here will be made here. For example, if I edit a file.txt and I type in A in my local server, A will be represented in the remote server. All right. So if, for example, this user John decide to edit that same file in the remote server, all right, and add B to it, B would also be sent to the local server. So at the end of the day, you have one file replicated across all of the servers. Now, the major reason why this is also important is you can have lots of servers you are currently working on at the same time. So you may not have the time to update those files every single day. So the purpose of DevOps engineering is automation to be able to make things easier to find the most secure and the most um, easy way to get things done, to automate things. All right. So now that we are clear with that and we've understood what RSync means, remote synchronization, we are then going to continue with the lab session to practice what we've just learned. A practical representation of this is, first of all, before we can do this, let me see if I have any. Um, okay, so first of all, I'll just create a new directory. Of course, we know the command of creating directory, which is make directory. So we are going to call, okay, so we are going to call our directory rsync lab. Okay, I click on enter. So we are going to move into the directory. So I'm currently in the directory. To confirm the directory I am in, I'll use pwd print working directory. I can see I'm currently in my rsync lab directory, which I just created here. Okay. Now there is nothing like that in the remote server. Okay. How do I know this is the remote server? If I do host name, you can see this is the remote server, and also it's also here. Okay. So let me confirm the directories I have here to make sure I do not have any directory with the same name. So there's nothing there, nothing like RSync lab here. So clear this. So we are good. For those of us who are just joining, this is my local server and this is my remote server. So I put them side by side so that I can be able to work on them directly without having to click all the time. Okay. So clear this. So what I'm going to do now, since I have my directory, let me list the directory. It is empty. There's nothing inside the directory. So I'm going to create a new file inside this directory. So I will use the touch command to create a directory, and I'll say rsync.txt file. Okay, and let me view the file to see if it is created. It is created. I have it here, rsync.txt file. So now that I have my rsync.txt file, I will need to edit the file and input some sentence into it so that I can be able to confirm when I move it to the remote server if it's actually working or not. Okay, so what I will do is I'm going to use the echo command to write something into the file, and I would say echo this is a test um, sentence from local server. Okay, then where do I want to store the file into? I want to store it into my rsync.txt. So that is why I'm using the greater than sign to append what I've just written into it. So I'll click enter to confirm that my sentence has been inserted into the rsync.txt file. I'm going to do the cat command rsync.txt. When I click enter, I can see the content of my file inside the rsync.txt file. So everything here is good. All right. So to for me to be able to um, copy this into my remote server, I need to have SSH installed. Okay. In our previous class, we already have SSH installed in our servers. Okay. So I do not have to worry about this. So we continue to, so let's rsync this into our remote server. Okay, so when I run the RSI command, it is going to copy the entirety of this file into the remote server and every content that's inside. Okay, so let me do that now. So I'll use the rsync command dash avh. So the A there is archive, V for verbose, and H for the human readable form. All right. So I'll sign dash avh. All right. So now I would have to put the directory that I want it to move into. So I have my home directory. Okay. Before I do this, yeah. Now you see this symbol here. Yeah. It's a shortcut for me to tell the system that I want it to be in my home slash os boxes directory. Okay. So instead of me typing the home directory that I'm currently in, I just do that sign. Okay. It's like a quick way. Now, how do I know I am in my home in my slash home slash os boxes directory slash file lab? How do I know? Because when I run pwd promote directory is going to give me this. So I'm my home, OS bosses, rsync lamp directory. Okay. So I don't want to write all of these. Sometimes you can have a very long directory. You do not have to type every single one of them, especially when you know you're in your home. Okay. So I'll just retype the command and say rsync, or I'll just call it back and and just redo this and see. Okay. So I'm rsync underscore lab. Maybe I should just make it very simple. Let me just make it simple for those of us who may get it confused. So let me just say OS boxes slash. So if you can see, I'm typing out what is here. Okay. So you need to know the current directory that you are currently working on. So that's why the pwd command is very, very, very important. So now that I have the directory that I want to copy the file from, okay, then I would then have to first of all remember the IP address of my remote server. Okay, to remember that, I would have to go back and say ifconfig. Ifconfig is the command you used to know. You type in to get the network details of your machine. Okay, so I see that I have my 192.1. So I'll just say, and again, I need to know the user that I want to copy this file to. Okay. Now I have my user here. The OS boxes user is the one that is currently logged in the remote server. All right. In the course of this class, we're going to learn about users. So I'll clear this. Okay, let me not clear it because I need the IP. All right. So let me just type out the IP first. So 192.168 dot 1.134. This is what I need. Okay, this is the IP address. So I know this is OS boxes, the user that I need, but how do I know? How will you know? Because it can be anything if you're working on any server. All right. So you can say who am I? You can see OS boxes. Very easy command. Who am I? Okay. You can see OS boxes. So let me clear this. So I'll come back to my local server, and just the same way we do our SSH. Okay, but instead of typing SSH dot, I mean SSH at SSH where's buses at 192.168.134, right? We just use rsync, all right, to copy the directory. You know, when we were doing SSH, we just this rsync was SSH. There was nothing here, okay? But then for rsync, we are putting this because we want I want to see the H is for me to be able to see, to know that, oh, it has been finally copied. So to give me the output in the human readable form. So the verbose, the V there is the verbose to the output itself. Okay. I hope this is getting a bit clearer for all of us. Okay. So the same way we copy our files to to remote server. First of all, I need to know which directory do I want this file that I'm copying. You can see I didn't put the file. I'm just putting in the directory that the file is located. Okay, because I want all the files inside of it to move. Because anyways, that is the only file inside. Okay, so I need to know the directory. I know the directory, but for our sake, I will say pwd in the remote server. I'm currently in the home/os boxes, so I'll put that there in the local server home slash os boxes. Okay, so I'll click enter. So it's asking for a password. I'll put in the password and see what happens. All right, so I can see. So this is the reason for the VH, the verbose and the human readable form. So to give me the detail of the transfer. You can see sending incremental file list. Okay, the file that was sent is rsync.txt file. All right, so the total size of it is 178 bits, and the speed is 0.19. So now, normally, I would then SSH into my remote server. Okay, but I do not want. Normally, this wasn't going to happen. You would do SSH OS boxes, and put the IP address of your remote server to access the remote server. Okay, but it's going to be too much information for us. So to understand the concept one at a time. All right, so this is my remote server that I have opened down already. So because I'm already in the home/os boxes, so I'm just going to confirm if this RSync lab is currently in this directory. Okay, so I'll do ls. You can see my file here. It's been moved into rsync.txt. Okay, so this is one part of it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this. Why? Because I normally the major reason why people we do or rsync is used is usually for backup. Okay, so I am going to delete this and create a directory that has the same name as the directory I have here and name it backup. Okay, so this is just a test for you to see how rsync works. So it has moved the file here. Let me do ls from the just copied, not move, just copied the file here into the remote server. Okay, but so that just for testing purpose, but I want it to appear in the backup directory. So I'm going to delete this, but before I do that, so let's confirm that the content here is the same content that we have here. So let's check the content in our local server. Okay, it says this is a sentence from the local server. All right, so let me check the one what was sent. Say this is a test from local server. You can see how easy that is. So I'll clear this. Oh, sorry. Okay, and I'll remove it. It's gone. I'll check. You can see it's no more there. All right. So what I'm going to do now is to create a directory that's called rsync lab backup. Okay, in my remote server. I can also create it from the local server. All right, but let me just create it here. So make directory, and I'll call it rsync lab backup. Click on enter. I'll change directory and move into the backup. I'm currently in the backup now. Okay. If I do ls, you can see it is empty. There's nothing inside it at all. So now I'm going to copy this text again. But before I do that, I'm going to edit this file. All right. Add more sentence into it so we can see. All right. So to add more sentence into our rsync.txt file, I will just use the echo command again. And I would say hello from the local server. All right. So where do I want to put it? I'm using double greater than because I do not want to delete what is here. If I use one greater than, everything in the file will be deleted and a new sentence will be placed inside the file. We don't want that. Okay. So I'll use double greater than to append this sentence along into the file. So we'll then have two sentences, this one first and hello second. Okay. So put it into my rsync directory. I'm in file. So it's in now. So I'll cut it to confirm that it is in. Can see that I have additional hello from the local server sentence added into my rsync.txt file. All right, so then let's remotely copy this into our new directory. So I'll say rsync, bring back the command avh, um, call back the, okay, let me just call it back instead of typing it again. So how do you call back? You just press the up and down direction um, button on your keyboard. That's how you call back a command that you've run before instead of running over and over and over and over and over again. So just um, use the arrow command. Okay. So remember the last time I didn't put the name of the file. So what if you have so many files and you don't just want to, like maybe in this directory, you have so many files inside. So you can, I don't want to copy all the files inside the directory. So you have to be more specific and put in the name of the file. So that's what I'm doing here now. So I'll go back and then add my the name of the directory that I want it to be saved into, which is the rsync lab backup. Okay. Now, just to make something clear, for the fact that I have this in my system, okay, may be a bit not clear to you. Now, in the real world setting or in a real world sense, when they say something is a remote server, it means that something that is a server that's not close to you. You can be in London and the remote server is located in Argentina, okay? Or the remote server can be located in the US, or the remote server can be located in Japan, okay? So, and your local server, which is this one here, is the one you're currently working on, which is your own local server. Local server is your host machine, the one you're working on. Okay. Now, while the remote server is the one that is actually located away from you. That's why it is called a remote. Okay. So, to be able to access them, that is why we use SSH. I explained this in SSH class, but I'm just repeating them again uh, for clarity purpose. Okay, so it's also why we also do rsync, because imagine you are here, you are an admin, or of course you are a DevOps engineer, and you are updating a manifest file, and you need that same file to appear in the remote server. Okay, as a backup, you know this so that as much as you are editing them, it's appearing. Um, it's going to be added into your backup directory. Okay. So, but for the fact that you can see local server to my left and right, remote server to my right, may not give you the full grasp. But I hope what I've just said has made you has given you some bit of clarity. Okay. So the remote server, this is just like a lab, a practice session of the reward scenario. So the remote server, it won't be close to you. So most of the time, what they will give to you is the IP address and the username. So that's why you need to know the user that you are going to SSH into or RSAC into, and the IP address of the actual machine. Okay. Okay. So RSync lab. I'm spending too much time on this topic, so I'll click on enter. Type in the password again, just the same way we do SSH. All right, so you can see our rsync.txt file has also been moved and been copied. You can see incremental file list. Incremental means the more you edit the file, the more it sends the data, the new data into the backup file. Okay, so when we did ls, it was empty, right? There's nothing there. So let's do ls in the remote server and see what happens. We can see our file is it's here. Okay, so let's cut it. You can see hello from the local server. It got the message. Please, any questions from anyone? Okay, is it clear enough? Is there any concern? Okay, so it's getting clearer then. So we move ahead. So I want to believe for those who didn't turn on their mics, I believe you are getting it accordingly. So we'll continue. So now I'll clear this. Okay, so what if somebody logs in into the remote server and makes a change to the rsync.txt file? How does the system copy the the new data into the local server? It is still the same thing. Okay. The for rsync, what happens is whenever there's a change, you must run the rsync command. Okay. But when you if you want to automate this process, you have to use like a cron job. So a cron job will say, oh, it's more like you scheduling the rsync command and say, okay, at 5 p.m., which is probably when most DevOps engineer will close from the office anyways, rsync this file, okay, into the backup directory. So that cron job will run every 5 p.m. every single day. So every data in that file will be copied into the backup directory in the remote server. Okay, but we are not doing cron job today. But I'm just going to show you how to also do the rsync command from the remote server to copy back into the local server. It's still the same command. Okay, it's still the same command, but yeah, it's still the same command. So I'm going to, this is my local server. I'm going to cut it so we know exactly the same content that we have there. You can see the content that we have in the local server. Okay, we already know the content inside our remote server. So we're going to edit the file and rsync back into the local server. So to test that, we can also do it in both directions. So to do that, I will use the echo command. Okay, I've used too many echo command. Let me use the cat command. So let me use cat command to um, to edit the file. Don't forget, I told you before that you can use. There's so many ways to get things done. So I'm using cat command. Okay, let me use echo. Let me not confuse some persons. All right, so echo, um, echo, say hello from the remote server. So this is the echo command. To append it, I'll use double um, greater than, because if I use single greater than, everything will be deleted and only my new sentence will be inside the file, which I don't want. Okay, so rsync.txt, I click on enter. When I do cat rsync, you see my hello from the remote server is added. So okay, let me use cat command to add something to say cat. So you can I've taught you this already before, so I don't think, just to refresh your memory too. You can see here I'm also using the double greater than sign. Click on enter, and then I'll type in um, this is a test from the remote server. All right, so click on Control D. I'll cut again to see. Oh, sorry. Um, I will cut. You can see this is a test from the remote server. Oh, that's this thing that I put there as added, which is fine. So I'll clear this, then cut it again. So let's rsync the file now. So -avh. So what directory am I in? I am currently in my rsync with lab backup. So let me delete this, do pwd, print working directory to know the directory I'm in. So this is my directories. Okay, so I will say rsync -avh. Okay, this backup here, this directory is what I have here. Okay, now we are then going to copy into our local server. So to do that, I will need the IP address of my local server. So I'll say ifconfig to get the IP address. So I have the IP address. So if I would like to know which username am I copying the file to. If I say, of course, did it before, who am I? Your OS boxes. So I'll say OS boxes at 192, which is this 192.168.1.161. Okay, so semicolon. Um, I need it. Which directory am I going to put it in? So I'll clear, say print working directory. So this is directory where I have where I need the file to. Now what I'm doing is from the backup I'm sending let's imagine that, oh, one person mistakenly added a new content into the backup file. Okay, and so we have to copy it back to the original file, copy this same new data into the original directory. Okay, so they can sync. That's what we're syncing, so they can be on the same page, on the same level at the same time, all of the time. Okay, so I need to know. Okay, so I already have my print working directory, which is this. So I'll put it here, say slash home slash os boxes slash rsync lab. Click on enter. So it's asking for a fingerprint because this is the first time it's connecting to my local server. So I'll say yes. If I password osboxes.org. Okay, so it's copied. So it said it has copied my rsync.txt from my rsync lab backup directory. Okay, so I'll come here and I will do ls. I can see the file now. So let's see if the contents that we have here has moved into the local server. Oh, there's a mistake. So what I did here, did you observe what just happened? When I did my rsync command, I did not specify which file I'm going to copy. All right, so it copied the entire directory. We can also see it here. It copied the directory and copied the directory and the file also. So, and I do not want the entire directory to be copied into the local server. So what I'm going to do here is to delete it. So remove directory, recursively sync lab backup, do ls again. So it is gone. I do not want it. So I'm going to clear this, my remote server, and do the copy again, call back the command, go in, okay, and add the file that I want to sync. So rsync.txt. So how will the machine know, or the server know that it won't have to create another file, because the file name here and the file name here is the same. So it's just going to put it inside instead of creating it and adding the file inside. So I've added the exact file that I want to rsync. So let's enter again, put in the password. Okay, so I have only my rsync file synced. All right, so let me clear this. Do ls. The file is still there, so do rsync. Do cat. Okay, you can see hello from the remote server. This is a test. So even the mistake that I made with the slash has also been sent. So for you to have a good understanding of how rsync is. So whatever. So when you do a cron job of this, it will copy every of the detail of the rsync into the local server. So the cron job is going to be part of your take home task. So I'm not going to do it in this session. So because we are going to learn about it in the future, but it's going to be part of your task for this week, so that you can do some research on your own prior to when we actually have the class. It's a very simple thing. You already know the command, so just do a cron job. It's a very simple command. All right. So all right. So what's your question, please? Yeah. All right. So there are lots and lots of scenarios where the rsync command come in place. You can see here I did a backup of the same directory that we have in the local server. So most of the time it can be log files. Okay. You are already familiar with how important logs are for every developer or every engineer. So you need to know exactly what is going wrong. And again, too, so that when there is an attack on your system, you can have something to fall back on. So it could be any kind of file, it could be sensitive data. Okay. It could be list of all the clients that that you've worked with. It could there's data is data. There's so many datas. It could be pictures. It could be events that the company has done. All the details of the event. It could be now, for example, in the course of the class, we are going to be running Terraform. We're going to be doing lots of scripting. Now most DevOps roles requires that there is proper documentation for every infrastructure that you are building. So this documentation, you need to have a backup of them, of this data, just in case maybe it gets accidentally deleted or something happens. Just like there's 101 scenarios why you should have a backup. Okay. Although when most times people also use cloud backup to backup data and all that. Okay. Let me think of a very good scenario that we can work with. But I think, okay, I already have one that I created, but I wanted us to do that as part of the take home um, task. So I don't know if I should I should now bring it up here. Um, yeah, exactly. Now let me bring it home. Now, for example, when let's say assume that you are a system administrator for a company, or you are the web developer of a company, yeah, and every night you need to back up your web servers. Um, your That's what they call your in web server. That's what they call the var. Um, Sorry, that's in the wrong place. Say the directory is a directory called the var slash www slash html. I'm going to see a lot of these. Okay, so this there are going to be a lot of logs and lots of things happening within this directory. Okay, and you need to copy all of the data of this directory as a backup into um, it could be a DB server or a remote server or a backup server, you know. And there are lots and lots of logs that your web server is going to generate, and SRE team will need it. That is the site reliability engineers. They will need those logs. Okay, and and most of the time you are not supposed to be consistently logging into a web server. Okay, you cannot be logging into a web server every day, every day, every day, every day. Doesn't make any sense. It's not even a standard. All right. So before that is deployed, it's always best to schedule an rsync, that copies all of those logs into a backup server. Okay, so that backup server that is where you now read all the logs. Maybe there's an attack, a DDoS, or a brute force or whatever, you see all of those data in all of those logs and all of those logs inside the backup server or directory. Okay, so you can access them and know exactly what's going on. Okay, so because also to limit the number of time you are actually having to log into a web server. Do you get it? Sorry, I'll come again. I'm not sure I get the entire question. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No. 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 Our sync is still. Should I use the word low level? It's still no. That's a whole different case entirely. Yeah. We are as when it comes to deploying to production, we are going to get to that. All right. This is just like when you have files that are consistently changing, that every single day data are being populated into that file, and you know that I'm going to need this file. Okay, I will need it. I will need data inside this file, but I do not want to be logging in into this server every single day. So you schedule a backup server where the files are being synced into. So instead of logging to the web server, you check your logs and everything about the file in that backup server using rsync. So yeah, so like I said before, you do the rsync. Like the rsync can work with a cron job. Okay, like I said, so a cron job is like an automation that automates or that schedules the time that the rsync command will run. So you can say, okay, run every midnight or run every 5 p.m. when I close from work, okay, or run every 8 a.m. You understand? So when the cron job runs, it will run the RSync command and sync that changes into the backup every single day. So instead of thank you. So thank you. So you don't have to log in to do that. It automatically just documents that for you. Automation. All right. So because every single day, yeah, you can forget not to do it a particular day, and probably the day you forget is the day you have an attack. You don't want to be in that kind of situation. So that is why it's always good to have backups of our data. Okay. So I would stop on I would stop on that for our rsync, and then we will move to um, SSH. Complete our course, our topic on SSH, where we learned how to SSH directly a directory into a remote server. Okay, so I've exited my rsync lab because I do not need this directory at the moment. I'm done with that particular topic. So what I'm going to do is to but I think my SSH is already working fine. I think so. Resume. Okay. So don't forget. Let me repeat. To SSH, you say SSH OS boxes at the IP address of your server. Okay. You just type it in. Dot da 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 da. So now the major reason why we you need to disable root logging. Okay. Don't forget we talked about root logging, right? So let's do secure root logins. Now, don't forget when we started with SSH, I talked about sudo. Okay, that sudo is a privileged user or a super admin user, and it is very, 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 very detrimental to a company or to you when you have your sudo exposed. Okay, so the root is the user. Okay, the root is the user, the root of the server. It's the user that uses the sudo command. Okay, now when the root can run any command. Okay, so when you do sudo, it assumes the root user. It assumes like it gives you like it assumes that you are the root user and allows you to run the command. Okay, so the root user is automatically a sudo user. Okay, so and you they have lots of privileges and permissions that they offer that you do not want a third party to get access to. So when you create a user in your organization or in your company, they do not like for example, imagine you come in for the first time, a company employs you as a DevOps engineer, and the first thing they do is to give you, oh, you are now our CEO of the company, and you applied as a DevOps engineer. Want to look strange? Like you can do anything you want to do. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, because first of all, you are the DevOps engineer and not the CEO. So you have to create a user for the person whom you've just employed, for the DevOps engineer. Okay, so the root user is also a user, but it's a super admin user. Okay, that is automatically added to um, the sudo file. So we to switch to a to your root, you so say su with a dash. When you click enter, you put in your root password, and you see I'm now in my root directory. Okay, if I say who am I see I am root. You are now a super admin. You can run any command and it will go through. Okay, so another way to do this is to instead of typing su dash, you can just say su means switch user. So su root. So su switch user to root. You see, I'm back to root. Put in the password. Uh, okay, it says that it failed. So that's much. Typed in some wrong thing. Okay, so I'm back as my root user. Okay, so what if I want to go back to my OS boxes user? So I can say so su switch user OS boxes. Can see I'm back to OS boxes. user. Okay, I can create a new user and give, okay, I can create a new user and I can also check the various users that I have on my system. So how do I know the different users that I have? We'll talk about that when we are doing users and permissions. So quickly before, because I think we've spent some bit of time before we move into users and permissions, let's quickly do our root, disable root login for SSH. So how does this work? First of all, you would need to see, it's what they call etc slash ssh slash ssh daemon config file. So this is where all of your SSH configurations are located. So the config is your configuration, the SSH is your SSH files, your secure shell, the D is a daemon that actually powers your SSH. So that's when, if you remember when we did SSH, we did system called start or restart SSH, right? So this is restarting the daemon that powers the SSH. So I'll clear this. So somebody will not ask me that what's a daemon in what do I mean by daemon? So remember I in the course of this lab I mentioned cron job. Okay. So a cron job uses a daemon to actually trigger the job. All right. So a daemon is a service that needs to be triggered to do a particular task or a request or to monitor a particular file. That's a daemon. Okay. So it does so many things. It can be system D, it can be your HTTPD, Nginx, so many things. All right. And also always imbibe the habit of going online to research some of these things that we talk about in class. It will also help you a lot. Okay, so I run this command, but I won't run the command directly. So what I'm going to do is I'll run them one after the other. So I will change the command, I mean the directories for you so you can see. So we have here the etc file. Within the etc directory, we have SSH. Okay, and we have the SSHD config. Okay, so I will do ls/la to see all hidden files. So I have my .ssh here. I'm looking for the etc file. Okay, so it's gonna be here. Okay, so cd/etc. All right, I'm in. So I'll do ls. So these are every single directory inside the etc directory. Okay, now you can see this the sudoers file where they are being stored. Okay, so etc file is your editable text configuration file. etc means editable text configuration file. Okay, that it has all the system configuration files and directories. Every single system files, configuration files, directories are in the etc directory. Okay, so I will look for SSH. So you can see I'm doing this manually so that you can have a full understanding of what I'm doing instead of just running the directory command. Don't forget I said the blue one is always a directory and the white one is always a file. Okay. Looking for S. I'm sure it's somewhere here, but my eyes it's not just picking it up. All right, so it is here. It says Sage. So I have to go into this directory to look for my sshd config file. So I'll say cd ssh. I'm in and I do ls. Now, if you remember, I did cd slash etc slash etc slash, okay, to change directory, and now I'm doing cd ssh. It works. My machine understands that I'm trying to change directory into ssh, so that's why I don't have to do all of that. But for sake of understanding, I just do it. See, it didn't even work. All right. Oh, I'm already sorry. I'm already in my SSH, so maybe that is why. That's why it didn't work. Okay, so I'll just do ls. Okay, you can see all of the files inside my SSH directory. Okay, so this is the file I'm looking for. SSHD config file. So to do that, because I'm not a root user, I have to use sudo to assume the role, to borrow the role of a root. Okay, because root is your super admin. Okay, and sudo is like the power, the kingship that it has to do anything. The crown of the root itself. So that I'm borrowing the crown. I'll say um, sudo sshd config. Sorry, sudo v vi. So don't forget, I said there is different ways to do this. You can use Vim or you can use Nano. Okay, so Vim vi is the same as Vim. Okay, Vim, or I can use Nano. They are all text editors. But for some reasons, I prefer to use Vim. I can type Vim or I can type vi. The server understands what I'm trying to do. So when I click enter, ask me for a password, a pseudo password. So I'm in. So how do I know what to change in my directory? Okay, so I'll just continue this way. All right, so I'll just continue this way. So this is my sshd config file. So what I would be looking for is somewhere. Now, there's something you need to understand. You need to know where you want to SSH into. Now, I am in my local server now. Let me exit this. I am currently in my local server, right? If I want to SSH into my remote server, okay, you would make your changes in the server you want to SSH into. Okay, now I can decide to leave my root login for my local server if I don't have any sensitive data in there, or there's nothing really important that I want to keep away. But for my remote server, there may be a need for me to take away every single unauthorized access from the machine. I do not want people to easily log in. Now, this is because I want to log in from my local server to my remote server. So it is best I make my changes in my remote server to block any person, whoever you are, into accessing my root user. Okay. So what I'm going to do is to cut my etc slash psw password directory. This is where all of your users are stored. Okay, you can see there's a user called Gabriel. There's OS Boss's user. Looking for the root user. I can see the root user is the first user in on the list. Okay, so I do not want anybody to be able to access my root user. Okay, so what am I supposed to do as the system admin of this company? So what I will do is to say sudo vim slash it. Let me clear this. So sudo vim slash etc slash ssh slash sshd config. Oh, sorry, this won't work. Let me cancel. Config. It's not in directory. Okay, so I'm in. So first of all, when you log into the SSHD config, what you should pay attention to is the authentication. Um, Anywhere that says authentication. Okay, you can see when you see the hash symbol is a commented sentence. So it means the system will ignore that part of the file. You can see here I have password authentication. So this means that I can log in into um, my remote server via SSH using a password. Okay, I can log in into my remote server using a password. Then when I go up, this is fine. If I don't want anybody to log in into um, my system with the password, I can say no to that. You can see here it says permit root login. It said yes, and this is wrong because it's exposing my system. So let me confirm if I can actually log in as a root into my remote server. Let me confirm since it is on already. Okay, so let me just exit. So to do that, I'll go to my local server and SSH. I'll say root at. So I'm trying to log in as a root into the remote server. So let me confirm the IP address of the server. So this is it. So I'll type it in 192.168.1.134. Okay. Now, don't forget, before you run SSH, you must have created a key, and you must have copied the key into the remote server. We learned this in SSH. All right. So let me log in and confirm if that will work. So it's asking for your password, just like what we saw in the config file. Okay. Let me type in the password again. You see, I'm now in the root remote server. This is wrong. It is detrimental and it is colossal. See, I'm into my root remote server. I've logged in into this machine from here as a root, and this shouldn't happen. So I can from here delete every file. Now let me show you. ls. Let me add something in this remote server. Let me clear this remote server. Let me add something inside. Let me say make directory test root user. Okay, ls. I have the directory here. So I'm logged in as a root remote user. Anyways, when I logged it as a user into any server, you can always delete the directory. But this is just a test for you to um, see that I'm actually logged in. So I can say L, um, I can say what is the directory of this one. Okay, I can say cd into that directory home slash os boxes slash r sync lab backup. I can see the test root user here and I can delete it. So directory test. See, I do ls. There's only the rsync.txt file there. So when I come back to the remote server and I do ls to view the file, you see, from having this and this, having the txt file and the test root user directory to only having this, I've logged in and I've deleted it. That is an example of what can happen when somebody logs in as a root user. They can delete sensitive informations from your server, steal it, do whatever, copy files, and you don't want that to happen because the root is a super admin user. So let me exit. Okay. Where who am I? Let me check the server I'm in. I'm back in my local server. All right. So let's delete. Let's remove the root login from our remote server. So I'll call back the command sudo vim etc ssd config. Okay, click on I to insert, and I would scroll through and comment on this. Permit root login. Put the hash symbol to comment on it. So this is off. Okay. Now, if you look at this here, it says prohibit password. Now, prohibit password means I can log in with SSH, all right, with key pairs that are with no one will created key pairs, public key and private keys. I can log in with my key pairs. Then here it says I can log in with, of course, this is not a root user, so I can do my SSH normally as with password. Okay, so I have taken off my, I've removed, where is it again? All right, so I've removed my permit root login by commenting on it. So this will not work anymore for anybody who wants to do root login. So let me save it. WQ exit. So let me cut it to be sure that it is saved. Okay. When I scroll up, so it is saved. So I should, on a recent, I should not be able to log in as root into my remote server anymore. So let's try again. Let me clear the local server and let's try to SSH as root one more time. So my root, click on enter, type in the password. Okay, it still worked. Now, why did it work? Because I did not start, I did not, don't forget, I said the SSHD, SSH uses the SSHD daemon. So I did not restart the daemon. So it should still work. So my back to my local server, let me exit, clear. So in my remote server, I would just restart my SSH. So system call restart SSH. So it's asking me for to authenticate. Okay, rerun the command to make sure it worked. Okay, so asking me for password again. All right, so let me check for the status. Oh, sorry. Okay, so it's listening now. It started the secure server. Okay, so clear. Now back to my local server. Let me SSH again as root. Click on enter. Type in the password. Let's see. It's taking a bit of time now. Okay, so you see permission denied. Please try again. So let me try again. Okay, now I'm in my remote server now. So let me see what's going on in my remote server. So system call status SSH. You can see here there's a log telling me failed password from root from 1968.1. So if somebody is attacking your system or your server, you would see the log in your SSHD, in your system call status SSH command. So you see the log there. So you see failed password twice. So let me try again. Put in the password for the third time. You see denied. So when I, when I run this, sorry, when I run this command again, you will see two more authentication failures on your remote server. So when you see this, it calls for attention that somebody is trying to access your server as root. So you get in the security team, your security engineers to um, do what's needed. Or if you are the person responsible in securing the system, you take it up for yourself and do the necessary correction and do a documentation about it. Okay, so now that we've seen how to disable root, I think we would end that for today. And I would make an extra video on how to create user group management, or I will wait for us and we'll meet on Wednesday for the next class. Okay, thank you everyone, and thanks for joining the class. If you have any question, this is the time to um, come up and ask your questions. So we'll we'll continue the rest of the class on Wednesday, the user group management, because we've spent a bit of time already. So on Wednesday we'll finish the class on user group management. Then we can do the take home task after that. After then, okay. All right, guys. Thanks for joining in. I appreciate your time. Please, if you have any question, quickly drop it down here or send me a message, and I would respond to you as quickly as I can. Thank you. Have a good day. Live long and prosper, every one of you. Thank you.